Wszystko zaczęło się od króla Jagiełły. Mała Łodzia stała się miastem, które w XIX wieku rozwijało się najszybciej na świecie. W ciągu zaledwie 60 lat od powstania pierwszej manufaktury powstaje przemysłowa, wielonarodowościowa metropolia. Jednak wiatry historii nie zawsze jej sprzyjały. To, co zniszczył los, odbudowują łodzianie. Nasza Łódź. Miasto wielkich szans. Od 600 lat w sercu Polski i Europy.
Jesteśmy Polakami. Jesteśmy niezwykłym społeczeństwem. Zawsze w obliczu wielkiego wyzwania potrafimy się mobilizować. Potrafimy stawić czoła wielkim wyzwaniom. Bo nie potrafimy stać obojętnie. Bo obchodzi nas bezpieczeństwo i przyszłość naszych dzieci. Bo wierzymy, że nadzieja zwycięża apatię, lęk i strach. Bo mimo wszelkich przeciwności nigdy się nie poddajemy. Potrafimy ciężko pracować, wspierać się i działać razem. Bo zależy nam na naszej ojczyźnie, naszym osiedlu, naszej ulicy. Bo chcemy naszych niezbywalnych praw i wolności. Bo nie oddamy naszych marzeń. Nadchodzi punkt zwrotny.
Dzień dobry, ja się nazywam Sebastian Ogórek, reprezentuję Gazetę Wyborczą i wyborczą.biz i będę miał przyjemność dzisiaj poprowadzić.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sebastian Ogórek, economic journalist with Gazeta Wyborcza.biz. My panelists are Katarzyna Dębkowska, head of the foresight, economic foresight team at the Polish Economic Institute. Aleksandra Wiśniewska, działaczka humanitarian activist. Yaroslav Romanchuk, representing EUCON legal group. Ignacy Morawski, main economist of Puls Biznesu. And Piotr, Czarniak, public affairs expert with Allegro. Let me start with an anecdote. The beginning of the Russian invasion, we faced 5 to 6 million Ukrainian people, refugees in Poland. And if you entered a drugstore Rossmann, one category of products was missing: sanitary pads. They just were completely sold off. You can see the purchasing power of the Ukrainians who came to Poland, as well as Polish people who were helping them buying those products. Now, the question is, what's next with the Ukrainians? What their purchasing power is, how they're doing in the Polish market. Let's start with the person who helps with trade. What's your perspective of e-commerce in terms of Ukrainian people? About 1.5 months after the beginning of the war, we introduced the Ukrainian version of Allegro because we realized that the huge number of people coming to Poland will need access to products. Many of them will just need products at low prices. We realized that their purchasing power was limited, and many of them didn't really know where exactly in Poland they would end up. So logistic issues were of the essence. So as a platform, we wanted to help them, just as in many other social issues. Also started aid mechanisms such as collections for refugees. Now, what can you say today from the point of view of Allegro? It's difficult to capture. Even though we have a Ukrainian page, we know that it's not so easy to identify consumers, because our Ukrainian site has about 800,000 views per week, but they also communicate in Polish. They also communicate in English. So it's impossible for us to easily determine how many Ukrainians using Allegro. We are not collecting data like that, like cell numbers, but we conduct market surveys with the Danae agency to find out about their purchasing patterns and habits. The last one from 2022, we realized that in e-commerce, Polish and Ukrainian people do not differ too much. But the Ukrainians living in Poland spend much less than back in Ukraine, so there is certainly a certain barrier to financial possibilities, but on the other hand, there's a substantial growth potential for Ukrainians. So we can see new trends, for example, Ukrainian platforms that can potentially offer products that they know better. For example, we can see some of them on our platform. On the other hand, language is helpful, but many people say that only 20% of refugees understand the language very well. So we need to work on language inclusiveness. So we're also researching which products are most online friendly. In Ukraine, it was a fashion, child culture. In Poland, it's fashion, footwear, health, and cosmetics. The question is whether it's the issue of a higher supply. I know that fashion is very, very difficult. It's growing. Now, I turned on the Ukrainian version of Allegro today, and I saw the differences. In the Polish version, wants to sell me products for leisure, like fishing rods, things like that. The Ukrainian website, it's things for children, like clothes and so on and so forth. So I can see that you working for the Ukrainians, and indeed, of course, we have some solutions that select preferred products. So we assume that certain population groups could be interested in different types of products. So these websites are generated, so that's why the difference is. Now I'd like to ask Aleksandra, in your experience of aid, have you seen any complaints about people trying to, for example, cheat Ukrainian clients, things like that? We have so many problems and challenges faced by the Ukrainian community. That the issue of consumer some fraud is not a major problem that is addressed to aid organizations or governmental problems. It's a problem number 17, let's say, not 1 or 2 or 3. The major problems are language, it's accommodation, education. The consumer is not only a consumer that buys on Allegro, but it's also kind of a person who sends children to school, goes to a health clinic, so on and so forth. From the point of view of children in Poland, only 1/4 of Ukrainian children who should be educated is participating. It's more than 180,000 children. It's a large number, but still 3/4 of Ukrainian children do not attend school. Most of them are using the Ukrainian educational system. At the beginning of the war, I participated in the evacuation of orphanages from Ukraine to Poland. There's a big difference. What do I mean in terms of a remote system? In Ukraine, it's about children getting homework and sending it back. Now, so a lot of children did not attend school during the pandemic. During the war, many of them went to Western Ukraine, then to Poland. Now we have 8-9-year-old children who've never been at school, and regular school. So in terms of assimilation, socialization, developing the basic socialization abilities that help you go through life, establish a family, build friendships, that's a tragedy. In education, another major problem is that in comparison to the German system, there is no introductory system for Ukrainian children. At the beginning of the war, it was said that it was said that the Polish language is very similar to Ukrainian. Well, yes, it is similar, but it's not that similar to Russian, and a very substantial number of people in Ukraine uses Russian. So a language. The children have the greatest potential for assimilation in Poland if we do not provide them with a good language education. They will turn into frustrated teenagers. I've seen places in Iraq where refugees created enclaves from neighboring countries. For example, Syrians in Iraq, and I'm not saying that the same will be true in Poland, because in Iraq there is a war and terrorism and so on and so forth, but nevertheless a lot of children were marginalized there, and they joined paramilitary organizations. So we need to make sure children are assimilated, and another problem is with the recognition of degrees. The majority of Ukrainians coming to Poland have higher education, but we have the greatest problems with recognition. We have doctors, engineers, lawyers, and all of them work below their educational attainment. Another thing is the problem with accommodation. A lot of women with children working in the gray zone or receiving minimum wages, they cannot cope with increases of accommodation rents, especially in Łódź and Krakow. It's more than 10%. Also, anti-Ukrainian sentiment is another problem. It happens in natural way. Every country that accepts huge numbers of refugees. At the beginning, it was wonderful that so many people went to the border. But can you see kind of the end of this beautiful phenomenon, this wonderful soul? I can't see this. We don't really have anti-Ukrainian political forces. I do not think it has such ideas are widely accepted among the Polish public. I think that we do not hate Ukrainians.
Well, that's true, but what's moving and beautiful is that we were wise enough as society that the main political parties didn't instrumentalize these emotions vis-à-vis vis-à-vis Ukrainians, vis-à-vis these refugees, although they are vis-à-vis other. Yes, that's very important. Speaking of the language and the problems, I don't think that it's easy to get assimilated, but because the latest report ordered by the Prime Minister Chancellery shows that Ukrainians leave Poland and go to other countries, mainly those without children. That means that after the first wave and after the first impression and first enchanting, we are losing consumers. So, Katarzyna, could you tell us how big is this group of Ukrainian consumers? How do they contribute to our GDP? Well, this group is still continues to be really big. 350,000 have left to Germany, but most of them didn't work in Poland. So speaking of their profile, we cannot say that Ukrainian employees and workers are massively leaving for Germany. Well, the main reason was the fact that they had somebody waiting for them there, family members, friends. So, and of course, also social offer was probably better for them, at least for the time when they learn the language. Well, in Poland it's different because in Poland Ukrainians started working, they established their businesses, they are very active. It's estimated that war refugees at the production age, they have found a job. Well, of course, what you have said, well, these are people working below their education because of the problem of the recognition of diploma. But they mainly work in the manufacturing industry, and they have filled in the gap. But they also work in services, but we also need to remember that this specific situation was very different because their gender profile of refugees didn't meet the needs of our Polish labor market. Also, many Ukrainians who worked in Poland before the war, they left for Ukraine. Well, for sure, we need Ukrainians in our economy. They manufacture, they consume, they pay taxes, they establish businesses. The number of sole proprietorships and the number of startups in the sole proprietorships has skyrocketed. Before the war, 200 sole proprietorships were started before the war. When the war started, 800 a month, and now it's over 2,000. So it has really, this entrepreneurship spirit has skyrocketed really, and Of course, maybe not all of these companies are started by by war refugees. Well, 41% of these new business entrepreneurs 41% are women. So this structure probably doesn't match the structure of the refugee population. We observed around 2% out of, we observed these, we monitor what happens to these almost 30,000 single or one or sole proprietorships. 2% only of them have been closed down. Communication and education is the main sector. So these are IT people to be able to work for other companies or with other companies. Women are active in the beauty sector, men also in construction. Yes, also software developers. I think this is the specific market in Poland. Well, I'd like to ask Ignacy Morawski, why should we take care of Ukrainians? Why are they so important to our economy? I will just give you one number. Ukrainian working in Poland is on average 6 years younger than a Pole. Well, from economic point of view, we can look at migration from the demand or supply side. Well, demand, how much people want to buy, what they need, but also on the supply side, that is how much we are able to produce, how much capital, people and technology we have. So usually migration improves our economic potential. We can produce more. The title of this panel is more demand-oriented. I think that the role of people coming here as consumers is not critical for the economy. We could sell these products to them in Ukraine. Well, even if they stayed in Ukraine, well, you can buy from Allegro, I think, with no problem, also from the Polish website of Allegro. Is it possible? Yes, but the channel is not officially recognized by Allegro. But it will be possible anyway soon. But from the supply side, it's a major change to the Polish economy because it means that we have a greater manufacturing potential because we have more labor. So in accordance with the demographic outlook of published by the UN, every year immigrants have moved away economic recession by 10 years in Poland. If you look at demographic forecasts for Poland, they showed that we should have 38 million people right now. So, and we were on the downwards trajectory. Right now we can see that we will be having 38 million people in 2035. So this population curve has moved by 10 years, and that has given us greater manufacturing potential. But that's nothing that happened last year. Increased migration to Poland has been taking place for 10 years, and this is the turning point. So that's the title. This is the turning point in Polish history, because for 200 years we were emigrants mainly. People were leaving Poland. They were forced to leave Poland, like our poets Mickiewicz, Norwid, Miłosz, great personalities of Polish culture. Well, migration is very deeply rooted in our culture. Well, even today we have football players who are Poles but born abroad, and that has radically changed. we have become a country receiving migration waves, and it happens so quickly that we cannot respond well to that. You have just told us how much we are unable to accommodate potential school children. The European Commission carried out a study on the friendliness of different solutions in different countries that would be migrant friendly. This is a study carried out by a Spanish think tank. It's a very interesting study. How institutional solutions in different countries support the integration of migrants, and we are somewhere at the bottom of this ranking. That it doesn't mean that these migrants don't integrate, but it's about legal and institutional solutions. We are prepared to use labor. If they come, they work, and they agree to be paid little, we are very happy. But to receive them and make them part of our society, it's much more difficult. But I think that this is because this change has taken place almost overnight, too quickly. We are not ready to it. Neither are we ready to discuss it. Politicians are afraid of discussing it openly. To them, migration is just a tool or instrument. Well, all these are migrants. These are bad and these are good. These are good because they pay for little money. We don't have any migration strategy, and this is a huge problem. And a few more words about economic aspects. The National Bank of Poland has estimated the input of migration to Polish GDP for the years 2015-2019. 0.5 percentage point, that's their contribution. But this is a lot, even it doesn't sound like. But our growth rate is 3.5%. So the critical for us is the difference in our growth rate and the growth rate of the Western economies. So the difference between the two is 2%, and from that 1/4 was contributed by the migrants. So this is a huge contribution, but we are also facing two big dilemmas. Well, there are always dilemmas in politics. And of course, that's true also of migration. Well, we want to have migrants because they increase our economic potential, but we also want to integrate them, and we want them to be integrated. We don't want to follow the path of the Western economies of the 1950s. They were also receiving people, migrants, from being happy that they have cheap labor, but then it turned out that it was really difficult to turn them into the members of their society so that they could feel that they are citizens, and that has remained until today. There are integration problems.
I'd like to add one thing. The spot that we saw some minutes ago, it was great, but it didn't show immigrants, people who have come to our country. So at this level, we do not see those people. Okay, just want to finish off with one dilemma. Economic growth versus integration. It's very difficult to integrate people when we accept them hundreds of thousands a year. And of course, we want to accept as many well-educated people. But if we create a brain drain on Ukraine or Belarus, then those countries will have very major problems. So I'd say that immigration is very important for the economy, but immigration should be responsible via integration. So, which means that we would turn those people into full-fledged citizens. Indeed, I'd like to add a few figures. Bloomberg checked the costs, immigration costs for 70% of refugees are females. Those who left the country may cause the Ukrainian GDP to be lower by 10% after the end of the war. A question for Yaroslav. Is there a debate in Ukraine about how to draw those refugees back to the country after the war? So there seems to be some rivalry between our countries. Thank you very much. I'd like to address the question of Ukrainian consumers. Now, today we are talking about refugees from the standpoint of refugees, but I'd like you to look at Ukrainians as consumers from a different standpoint. Now, refugees, that's one category. Another category, very, very large one, is business. Third category, expats. And fourth category, students. Let's start with students. I think since 2013, every year, about 50,000 Ukrainian students get education in Poland. Most of them rent apartments. All of them pay for college. And a few people with grants. When we talk about expats, those Ukrainian citizens who were invited by Polish and international companies of very high positions, more than 30,000, as far as I know. When we talk about business, we as a company, we've been in Warsaw since 2006 in Kiev. Right now, what we know from the Polish Economic Institute, in 2022 there were 14,000 one-person businesses and 16,000 limited companies by Ukrainians. Half year of 2023, more than 14,000 businesses. That's one important thing. Before the war, now the Ukrainians were not able to establish their own businesses or one-person businesses. Okay, but this act of law is temporary, has a time limit. Okay, what after the war, when it's ceased to bind? What will happen to their businesses then? And let's talk about refugees. I took statistics from the Ukrainian border guard. Right now, in the European Union, there are 4.5 million Ukrainians who fled after the Russian aggression. 87%. That's women with children. 65% of those women, they are in productive age, 18 to 59 years old. 95% who fled, they owned or they still have an apartment in Ukraine, 70% of higher education. So, when we talk about consumers, we need to think not only through the perspective or from the standpoint of refugees, because the structure is quite complicated, complex. I'd like to address your question about what should be done about returning Ukrainians back to the country, what the Ukrainian state should do, how we can rebuild our country, and how we can involve human capital. So there are again 3 major points or tasks. First of all, the Ukrainian government, the state, should develop a strategy how to motivate those people who fled abroad to come back. This is one very important question. Second question, how to socialize the troops coming back from the front lines, because the soldiers fighting, most of them are former workers, so we do not have this experience. There is some experience like that in the United States, because they are going to come back with a feeling, with a sense of justice. It's a post-traumatic psychological issues. And the third problem, from my point of view, that the third challenge for the Ukrainian government is to how to develop migration strategies, how to attract workers from other countries. And this is related to different sectors. Now, after the war ends, the United States, wanting to keep Ukraine in their own sphere of influence, maybe they can give a huge amount of money to invest there, and that will naturally make the refugees come back, because they will see opportunities. Or maybe there is no debate about this, and you're thinking about different debates. I cannot tell you that everything. I don't know everything. I can tell you only what I know. Transformation strategy has been developed with the involvement of Ukrainian society, as well as representatives of the United States and Poland. And one of the main tasks is to develop a strategy. A strategy has been developed. It really all depends on what kind of victory we're going to have and when. From the point of view of Ukrainian citizens, we must achieve victories. No other compromise is possible. Whoever fights at the front line, whether economic or diplomatic, we're all working for that victory. Therefore, to enable further development as a democratic country, the only way to go is help from the United States, the European Union, and we need transformation so that people do not perceive Ukraine as a country of cheap labor and corruption, but as a country that is developing, that wants to attract back Ukrainians. I often look at public opinion polls, how many people want to come back to Ukraine, and I'll tell you my feeling. And after conversations with our workers and friends, the decision, well, the polls are worthless right now because it all depends on the outcome of the war. Second, each person will make an emotional decision on the day of victory. When I tell you right now, a lot of people went back to Ukraine before September 1st, so that the children could attend school. As you said, mentioned school problems for children. Yes. But the very concrete thing that we did in our capacity, the end of March, people from school in Kharkiv came to us, about 300 school with 300 students, and by September 1st we were able to find a space near Warsaw, and they started to work in Ukraine. We had 120 students as of September 1st. This year we have 320 students. We have music school as well. And there are a lot of projects like that. Of course, not all projects have been successful. Depends, but the last issue, I talked to my parents, to the parents of those children, and they are interested in the education of their children. I think there are few parents who would not think about it.
Wrażenie, że
One thing more, I have the impression that it also impacts the real estate market. Well, I double-checked data on transactions of the purchase of apartments or flats, so it was maybe we should change it, because we should, the Ukrainians, somehow participate more in our real estate market. We know that this safe loan is also available to Ukrainians. I heard that only 1% of applications has been submitted by foreigners. But maybe we should use it more widely. Maybe we should use this to give the possibility to Ukrainians also to construct houses here, not only to buy apartments. Katarzyna. Well, buying an apartment, this is a decision that you want to stay in a particular location for longer. I also follow such polls, and some of them say that 35% of Ukrainians want to come back to their country. There are some people who are not certain. They say they will come back, but a year after the war ends. So for sure, an apartment, a flat, is something that allows them to live normally here. To many Poles, it is an attainable dream. That's also true probably of Ukrainian refugees, but definitely the market of prices in the real estate market and the prices for rent, well, the rent increased very much. When they arrived, they would live with us, with our families, but now it's changing. So the consumer thing, well, they are currently present in our market, and the market adjusts to that. We can see also ads, commercials on TV, which are in Ukrainian. Well, but we shouldn't perhaps link ourselves with them for longer. This Ukrainian entrepreneurship in Poland, we asked Ukrainian companies, Ukrainian businesses whether they want to come back to Ukraine after the war. 2/3 said they wouldn't. Well, one thing more, these companies, when the war ends, they could operate in Polish and Ukrainian market. 40% of Polish businesses that we investigated said that they were interested in the reconstruction of Ukraine. So I think that we will see that in the years to come. Well, I'd like to refer to Piotr, Czarniak. Some people say that loans provide stronger bonds than between people than marriage. But are you thinking of short-term loans that would be available to Ukrainians? Well, the reconstruction of Ukraine has been mentioned. Well, this is a very interesting subject, because when after Ukraine's victory, we can become beneficiaries of transport hub. Now it's happening in the construction sector. Windows they are all sold to Ukraine. When war ends, people come back. They invest in their apartments, their houses, and they are in need of many other products. So from our business perspective, it's a great opportunity, not just for Allegro, but for e-commerce in general, to sell products from here. They are often cheaper here in Poland to the consumers in Ukraine. Sometimes it can be done through Ukrainian businesses operating in the Polish market, but it's not simple, because there are customs duties, and customs duties are decided by the EU. But e-commerce exports take place, but when it's really massive, we have huge infrastructural problem with servicing that. If the customs policy changes, if there are some more favorable regulations, we would need all forms, terminals at the border, and that will change the way we see this trade. But this will be a great opportunity to Ukrainians working in Poland, Ukrainian businesses here, but also to Polish businesses, and also to businesses from other countries. So to you, it doesn't matter whether the Ukrainians stay in Ukraine or in Poland. And what about loans? Well, we offer safe loans. Well, Allegro Pay, this is the so-called buy now, pay later solution. It's a very safe solution, but unfortunately, I'm not sure whether that's because of our rules, but I'm afraid that there are also some legal requirements, because you need to be a Polish citizen to be able to benefit of this solution, buy now, pay later. Well, we have start packages for Ukrainian companies, which on the one hand, if they come to us and they say, well, I want to start a business, and then we can help them in going through this administrative path and all registrations, numbers, and so on, and access to platform. And there is some access to capital involved, I guess, but I would have to double check it. Yaroslav suggested that banks have also accommodated, even in difficult subjects it works. Well, it's not about the Polish citizenship for being able to apply for a loan. Some banks want the person to have the permanent residence or something. And now I will ask you, as a candidate in the parliamentary elections, maybe after elections we will not be afraid of discussing the issue of refugees. So, in your opinion, what should be changed in the new parliament to transform refugees in people living permanently in Poland? Or maybe you think it's better for them to come back to Ukraine? Well, I think great benefit, demographic benefit, because there is a big gap in the Polish labor market. And we would have to face it anyway. Well, but this war is at the demographic level, is really a blessing to us. So I see a huge value in that, and I cannot hide the fact that I'm a Pole coming from a multinational policy. My father is a Pole, but my mom comes from a Thai and Chinese family. I was brought up in Łódź in the 1990s, but I also faced all these difficulties. So this developing of wise, long-term migration policy, this is the key to any government that will take office after the 15th of October. So this discussion currently is really very much populistic, and this is a populist policy. We can look at different models. There is a Canadian model which I believe properly grasps or properly balances asylum, reunification of families. So there are models which cope with the problem very well. And right now we are in the moment in history, because of the war, when we have the opportunity not only to offer wise security and the proper reception to our Ukrainian neighbors, perhaps right now we have the greatest opportunity. We have 29 days to come to fight for reshifting the erosion of our institutions. I came back to Poland 4 months after spending a year in Ukraine. It is my second home. When I spoke to my friends in Ukraine, they would say to me, well, Alexandra, it's not that you can help us only at economic or military level. We should go through many pro-democratic reforms to have this dream of NATO, to have this dream of EU. So to us, the point of reference is Warsaw, not Berlin or Paris. We have still 3 minutes, and I promised 1 minute to Yaroslav. I'm trying to combine the fact that we need Ukrainians in Poland and the fact that Ukraine will need people to reconstruct the country. So maybe people from Ukraine who work here in Poland, who do business here, maybe some of their taxes should go to the Ukrainian budget to support the reconstruction. Well, of course, they are sending, I think, 4.5 billion zloty every quarter back to their country. But yes, it's happening. It's happening already. It's not an institutional form of a tax, but huge money that is made here is sent automatically to people in need, and that's incredible how in the face of war what roles have been assumed by women. These women are helping their husbands, fathers, brothers fighting at Bakhmut or in Kherson or in still occupied territories. And ladies and gentlemen, today we are sort of far away from the war. We are discussing important economic and cultural issues, but today is the 571st day of the war. From our Polish perspective, we have different problems relating to economy, society, integration, but on the other side of the borders, they are bombed every day. There are bombs falling on schools, hospitals. The risk of ballistic attacks from the Black Sea, from Belarus, from Russia, this is the risk that they face every day. You fight with your arms, but also with your blood. And thank you very much, because you are fighting for us. And we were very lucky, we Europeans, that the Ukrainians managed to oppose the Russians, and that today the front line is in Donbas, not at our borders. I will give you 1 minute. Yes, we are coming back to the turning point, and there will be victory. There will be reconstruction. We will also offer other opportunities to the Polish business, and our very small contribution, the team of our lawyers wrote this book, this publication in Polish. This is also supported by this was written with the support of the Polish Chamber of International Trade, Investment and Trade. So we want to send the first 1,000. The first release is 1,000 copies. So we hope to sell it on Allegro. This is about This is about legal aspects of doing business in Ukraine. I wish you the end of war to come as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
It's not always easy to recognize. It may look like this, or like this. It may be a burden, but it is a responsibility that we embrace nonetheless. But if it means this for one person and this for someone else, maybe it ultimately means being there for one another. It isn't handed to us, but we know where to find it and how it feels, how it tastes, and what it sounds like when we finally have it. It means different things to different people, but for many, it means everything. And if we all fight for it, it will eventually bring us together.
Ihre Ausreise.
Każdy wybór ma swoje konsekwencje.
Dziś na kazaniu o takich jak ty mówili, że to morderczynie.
A wiesz, że ta, która ci pomogła, trafi za kraty?
Trzeba mieć sumienie.
Jak mogłaś to zrobić własnej matce?
Aborcja to najgorsza zbrodnia.
Gdybym ja podjęła taką decyzję, nie byłoby cię tutaj.
Organy państwa nie będą przyglądać się temu obojętnie.
Życie i zdrowie kobiety jest najważniejsze.
Stop kryminalizacji aborcji.
Kobieta decyduje.
Jestem z zawodu lekarzem. Zajmowałam się diagnostyką chorób nowotworowych.
W Białorusi zajmowałam się mikrobiologią i molekularną biologią.
Byłem nauczycielem szkoły podstawowej.
Naszym celem jest budowanie umiejętności, które są ważne na polskim rynku pracy.
Szybko nabierają takiej pewności siebie, bardzo szybko się uczą.
Wszystko możliwe, kiedy starasz się